This year's quarterback class is really bad, Ryan. It's really bad, to the point where people are trying to build up Cole Payton from North Dakota State and Taylen Green from Arkansas. Fact or fiction, after the way that they performed at the Combine, either one of these players will be a day 2 pick.
Fact. I've slept on this one, Joe. I've slept on this one. Okay, so here we go. Cole Payton will not go top 100 because he is still a 1-year starter coming from the FCS level, so he's got to jump up several levels to make that jump to the NFL level. And I still think that his throwing session at the Combine was poor, and I think his Senior Bowl was mostly poor as a thrower. He's a big, strong athlete. Someone will take him on day 3. Hope to develop him. Cool. I'm fine with Cole Payton in that valuation, in that bucket. Cool. Even though I also don't think that Taylen Green was a very good thrower at the Combine, Joe, even though that is true, I think someone's going to talk themselves into Taylen Green late day 2. I do. I think they're going to talk themselves into it. You know why? Because Taylen Green is not a good athlete. Taylen Green is a historically great athlete, and I do think that there's going to be a team or two that talks themselves into, even if he never develops fully as a quarterback, this is an NFL level athlete. Like, we're going to bank on an NFL level athlete, hope to develop a quarterback, but if not, I think he brings that floor to the table of there's still possibilities that he could help your roster out in X, Y, or Z reason, right? So I do think that Taylen Green ends up going top 100, just because I do think that the athletes will convince a team to make an early gamble, and you don't want him to get to day 3. Would I do it personally? No, I would not do it because I don't think Taylen Green's a very good quarterback. So I would not do it. But predictively, and this actually is a predictive conversation here, Taylen Green, I think, sneaks into the top 100, and I think that a team gets a little desperate for an NFL athlete of a historical context.
I'm going to lean fiction, but I agree with everything that you said there. I just feel like a lot of times when we get into these buckets of prospects that we start to get excited about, the reality does not meet our excitement for said player. Right. A lot of times it seems as though, like, Malik Willis is the first guy who comes to mind. We thought that, hey, this guy is a really good athlete. If he doesn't go in the first round, which he was projected to, a lot of people, could he maybe go somewhere on day 2? Doesn't go on day 2.
Yes, he does. Went third round.
Oh, he went in the third round? Why did I think he went in the 5th round?
Malik Willis went in the 3rd round that year. Yep.
Okay, he ended up slipping. Will Levis, another guy, ended up slipping going later. The way that I'm reading into this is, why do I feel like because this year's quarterback class is so bad that once the top 2 guys are off the board, a lot of teams are just going to kind of put their hands up and say we'd much rather grab other positions than take a flyer on a kid like this because he's boom or bust, and we'd rather wait until the 4th or 5th round to see if he's still there on the board. I also think that both options being there allows for teams to say, let's wait until the first guy is off the board, and then we'll make that decision. We'll wait until the first great athlete's off the board, and then we'll make that decision. But I do agree with you. Naturally, Taylen Green is a very rare athlete, and if you can turn him into a starter, I mean, there's a reason why in the preseason he was getting buzz. Why I got the Senior Bowl invite, despite the tape not being very good. Don't let fantasy football analysts tell you that his combine performance was good, because it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. I mean, I would love to go and pull the errant passes that he had. And look, he's very, 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 very physically gifted, incredibly physically gifted. But he has been a slow burn progress guy that has not really gotten there. I don't think it's ridiculous to say that he's very similar to Joe Milton. I think that having played a lot of football and been relatively stagnated in his growth, he's very, very similar to Joe Milton. And I'm sure that there's going to be reports in preseason practices and people going, Taylen Green's really impressive, and maybe he gets traded for in a year or something along those lines, just like Joe Milton. And then once he actually sees game action, the story ends up being different. But I don't. I think I'm kind of in the middle here. I lean fiction, but I see your argument because I think it's totally plausible.
So you know who I actually think Joe Milton is like, actually, Joe? So this is who I think that Joe Milton's like. I mean, sorry, Taylen Green. You said Joe Milton. I'm sorry, you crossed me up. I believe that Taylen Green is actually more similar to a former player that came out of the 2011 NFL draft that was 6'4.5", that ran a 4.38, that had a 10.4 broad jump, that was also no, not Matt Jones. Good guess though. Matt Jones was a little bit before that. A young man out of Ohio State named Terrell Pryor is who I think that Taylen Green is actually like a little bit. Tall, long, not a very good passer, dynamic, historical athletes. And I know some people get really touchy about this. Oh, we're rejecting quarterbacks to play wide receiver, blah, 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 blah. The point is I think teams are willing to bet on historical athletes, right, to figure it out in some capacity to help a football team. That could be as a backup quarterback. Maybe that's a developmental starter down the road. Maybe it's a position switch at some point in their NFL careers. I think that this is a type of athlete that can present a lot of versatility and possibilities. Cole Payton, I know that some people before the season were talking about him like a tight end convert or whatever, but Cole Payton's most likely just a quarterback. Like, most likely he's just a quarterback. Taylen Green brings more things to the table where I say, that's a guy that you can bet on the athlete to figure out a way to compete and to help a football team succeed. So, yeah, I think someone's going to get desperate. Again, would I do it? No. Do I think that someone would potentially do it? Yeah. I think there's a I don't want to say strong possibility, but there is a possibility that this happens. There's a possibility.
I do like the Terrell Pryor recognition because Terrell Pryor did get to play quarterback first. Yes. So, yeah. And I generally understand that people get frustrated and get upset over the projection of a guy to playing quarterback to transition to another position.
Right.
This isn't Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson won the Heisman. The assessments on Lamar Jackson were invalid, and he is somebody who no one should have been saying. I mean, I obviously was too young at the time to have been in the media, but
yeah,
no, those who were saying that he wasn't a quarterback were stupid.
Yeah,
Taylen Green,
go look at his passing numbers at Louisville. Like, Lamar Jackson was a legit, very good passer at Louisville.
Right,
you know,
right? Yeah. That was plain stupid. Taylen Green's numbers don't even sniff what Lamar Jackson did at Louisville, and there's a gigantic difference in the tape and the quality, the decision making, the throws, just all of it. Mm-hmm. I think that it's not unfair. I don't think it's unfair to say Terrell Pryor is a path for him where he could go somewhere that doesn't really have a quarterback future established. Maybe he gets on the field as a rookie. Maybe it doesn't really go well because we don't see it there for him as a passer. Yeah. And a team tries to coax him into playing receiver. If there's anybody over the past 10 years of drafting that actually fits making a transition to another position, even more than Joe Milton, because it's been suggested for Joe Milton, I think that it would be Taylen Green. Look, I don't think that it is disrespectful to say that if he tried playing receiver, he could be an all-pro receiver. I don't think that is disrespectful to state.
I don't know if I would go quite that far on like an all-pro receiver, but the point is, and the reason that Terrell
Pryor... He'd be a one-of-one athlete at receiver. He'd be Calvin Johnson with those physical tools, Ryan.
Don't do that. Don't do it, man. Don't do it.
I'm just saying, like, physically... Yeah. Physically, he has the same like testing profile as Calvin Johnson.
That's fair. That's fair. The reason that, again, I brought up Terrell Pryor is because, and this is a compliment to Terrell Pryor, Terrell Pryor failed as an NFL quarterback. He failed. But he was a good enough athlete to still find a role in the NFL. Like, he was a great athlete. It's the same thing with Taylen Green. Even if it doesn't work out and he's not a great quarterback on the NFL level, I think that he's athletic enough to find a spot and to find a role. That's the comparison.
Yeah.
That's the comparison.
The amount of guys that, quarterbacks specifically, that are out of the league in like 3 years because teams don't want to waste money on guys and commitments to guys that they don't see working. And not to mention the fact that if he goes to a team that theoretically fired a coach,
right,
he would be out the door. And a mid to late round pick that isn't fully ready to start just yet would be kicked to the curb. So being willing, I will find out what happens, but I'm rooting for him. I mean, he's fun. If he figured out how to play, if he ended up playing quarterback and being a quarterback in the NFL and somebody was able to set him up to succeed, it would be nuts. He'd be unstoppable. But there's been a lot of kind of hope that Taylen Green was going to hit at Arkansas, and it didn't fully come to fruition.